Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Philip Molina, and this is
Erik
Voss.
I say me.
We're going to immediately kind of react to the footage that we saw come out of Comic-Con. It wasn't supposed to be a trailer, but it basically is a Justice League trailer that nobody was really expecting. And there's definitely a lot to break down. So we wanted to get this out as fast as we could. So we're kind of going to riff on it and let you know the things we saw.
Gonna point out everything that we noticed and stuff that might explain some of the things you saw based off what we know from the comics.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get right into it.
There is a stranger who comes to this village from the sea. He comes in the winter when people are hungry and brings fish. He comes on the king tide. That was last night. Talk.
So this is Bruce Wayne. Last we left him,
Help me find the others like you.
Perhaps they don't want to be found.
he was out on a mission to assemble a sort of team, and here he is doing it. He's at a sea village looking for a man who brings people fish in the middle of winter. Note, Bruce has a beard, by the way, so it wasn't the next day, but Ben Affleck does grow pretty sick beards pretty quickly, so it could be pretty quickly after the death of Superman.
And notice how Bruce says that whoever this is comes in on the
King tide.
And the king tide is like a specific term. It means a really high tide. It only happens a couple times a year. So I think it's a reference to that, but it might also be a reference to the actual idea of a king, which...
Yeah, Arthur Curry is Aquaman. He's king of Atlantis, or at least he's supposed to be. He's the rightful heir to the iron, but not iron, water throne down there. So it would make sense that he would come in on the king tide.
And we're thinking this is more the classic version of Arthur Curry that we know from the comics.
Ish, not too classic, because that one is a real bag of nothing.
But the basic version of Aquaman is that he's half human, half Atlantean. He was born on land, but he becomes heir to the throne of Atlantis. But he still cares about humans. He still has a human heart, and he brings them fish in the dead of the winter, and he drinks booze when he's pissed off.
Just like a normal, everyday king of Atlantis human who has white eyes. Just, you know, that kind of like normal, everyday guy. I bet his heart is also not where human hearts are. But anyway, let's move on.
I believe that an enemy is coming from far away. I'm looking for warriors. This stranger.
So we come in on Icky Thump by the White Stripes, which just sounds badass. It feels like what DC is doing now is like, oh, let's just decide to be cool. Kind of like your mom's advice to you when you're a nerd in middle school. But then we go to this forest and we see some sort of ancient man, maybe Vikings is my guess, and they're bearing what we think could be a mother box. If you don't know what a mother box is, it's a really important piece of technology in another hell dimension that's run by this guy Darkseid. He's a huge deal. We'll get to him later, but let's talk about what is happening with this box probably now.
So if you remember back in Batman vs. Superman, there was that deleted scene that came out online and was in the extended edition with Lex Luthor inside the Kryptonian ship communing with this guy, Steppenwolf. He's probably gonna be the major villain in Justice League, the first part. And notice in that scene, you saw him with these 3 mother boxes. The story behind that is, based on rumor around the Justice League, is that 30,000 years ago, there was this big war for Earth fought by the Amazonians, the Atlanteans, and man teaming up against Darkseid. Now, Darkseid is the guy who commands Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf is like his lieutenant. So they're thinking that in Justice League, Steppenwolf will be trying to return to Earth to reclaim these 3 mother boxes.
As for where these 3 mother boxes are right now, one looks like it might be in the ground somewhere, but it kind of seemed like maybe Cyborg was being made based on the footage in Batman vs. Superman using a mother box. Maybe the Amazonians still have one. I think it's gonna be a little bit like the search for the mother boxes. I'm gonna go ahead and call out, yes, it's pretty similar to a bunch of searches for some stones by a guy who's real big and he looks a lot like Darkseid, but who cares? It might be awesome.
All right, we also get this quick shot of Wonder Woman with her shield, and if you notice, this is not the same shield that was in the other recent trailer from Comic-Con. Wonder Woman, she has a different shield that's in a totally different time period, like 100 years before when this takes place.
Good moment to point out, we did a whole breakdown of the Wonder Woman trailer and everything that's going on there, so check that video out when you have a second and you're done with this one. But moving on in this trailer.
Real quick, I want to point out this shot of Arthur Curry when he's walking towards the waves. The waves just crash into him. I feel like this guy is a real rugged ladies' man. I feel like that's how the ladies greet him. They're so turned on, and they're so...
Let's move on. Moving on.
Others like him. I'm building an alliance to defend us. It's it's very important that I see this man.
So here we see more of our big players. Barry Allen, Victor Stone, aka Cyborg. He's wearing this Gotham City University Letterman jacket. He's a quarterback, number 7. Notice that the colors of that jacket are black and yellow. Those are the same colors of the Gotham Knights pro football team, so it's cool to see Gotham City has consistent color schemes.
Across different director universes, but they stick to that black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Victor Stone, by the way, he was a football player in the comics. He had scientist parents that, he's in this, he has an issue. I don't want to spoil too much. He just ends up in not great shape, and then his parents are able to kind of bring him back into good shape by using some of the technology. But what's interesting is that in the more recent comics, what does this to him, what they are able to use to bring him back to life, it's related to Darkseid and those mother boxes in that world. So it could be one of these things like a deal with the devil kind of situation where, you know, you get back what you really want, but at what cost?
And if that scene where they save his life is part of Batman vs. Superman, notice how in this shot, Victor Stone, Cyborg, doesn't have any of his metal technology on top of him. He's still just an athlete. So I'm wondering if what we're seeing is part of a flashback or is just taking place before when he gets his powers.
Yeah, it's worth noting, by the way, that Cyborg and Flash are very young here. I think that they're trying to set those characters up with their kind of origin story here, even though the other characters we kind of were forced into getting to know them really quickly. These, I think they're gonna go ahead and plant some of those earlier scenes. That said, we're gonna see it in a moment. Flash already seems to be pretty active in his heroics. Watch, check it out.
Barry Allen, Bruce Wayne.
You said that like it explains why there's a total stranger sitting in the dark in my second favorite chair.
So here we're seeing Bruce Wayne recruiting Barry Allen, Flash to the team, and just like we saw Bruce trying to recruit Aquaman, I feel like since Bruce is handling those two heroes, I wonder if Wonder Woman is going to be the one to bring Cyborg into the team.
Right, and then let's also take a look here. This place is awesome. It looks like maybe some sort of former arcade or something. You can see in the background a test your strength game, so probably one of these really old places, maybe like an old fun house. Kind of also reminiscent of F Society's hideout in Mr. Robot. And I'm also wondering, does Flash actually live in this place? You can see some of his clothes off to the side, but actually there's so much to look at here. So let's actually zoom in on this place and see everything we can learn.
First off, we see tons of books on shelves. Now remember, Barry Allen, since he can move super fast, he can also read and process information super fast. So he's a speed reader and he's trying to learn pretty much everything he can. We see books on XML coding, that's like computer language coding. There's also a bunch of political biographies. So this guy's just trying to become a Renaissance man and use his powers to make himself a better educated person.
Yeah, well, I have a theory that he's trying to like learn everything for a reason, not just for his ability to solve a crime that's very inherent to the Flash storyline that I'll let you learn about later, but also look at these monitors everywhere. There's world maps and there's also parts of his suit, and he's like testing for aerodynamics. He's clearly trying to be the utmost version of a hero that he can be. Quick little Easter egg here. Obviously, a lot of you have pointed this out to me and I think it's great. Rick and Morty is playing in the background, specifically the episode where Summer makes deals with the devil, which came up earlier. And we can see that this is a scene where X is gonna give it to you.
X gon' give it to you.
And they're pulling their gloves down. Now, I want to point out something extra here though. This whole section of Barry's quasi apartment is dedicated to the design of his costume. You can see his helmet, you can see the chest piece, you can see his costume is right over there. And right when this sequence starts, we see the fingerless gloves that Rick and Summer are both wearing. I think that's actually where he gets the idea for his fingerless gloves later. He just thinks it's cool because Rick and Morty made it look so cool.
And actually later you can see close-up shots of sketches that Barry had made designing his costume, kind of like Peter Parker in the first Spider-Man movie. And remember back in Batman vs. Superman, it was hinted that Lex Luthor might have been the one to come up with each of these logos for the Justice League members. He used the lightning bolt and all the other symbols to label each of the attachments in his files. But now it seems like Barry might be the one to come up with the logo himself.
Also, check out that suit. It's on a dummy, you can see that, but look by the temple, that's a crash test dummy. I think that means that he's not just using this as like a creepy mannequin to scare him at night. I think he's actually putting this suit on this mannequin through the paces and seeing if it can deal with super speed and see how his body would hold up if he smacked into something while running and not paying attention. Let's move on then.
He said he'll fight with us?
More or less.
More or more less?
Probably more or less.
He said no.
He said no.
All right, and then this next section, it's actually just like kind of dedicated more to that Aquaman storyline again, which by the way, note, this is like a scary version of Aquaman, kind of a mariner who clearly like lives on the ocean almost like a pirate, not the wimpy one that we talked about earlier. But also it's worth noting that the prominence of Aquaman in this trailer, I think he's actually gonna play a huge role in the plot. Specifically, I think Atlantis is probably gonna play a huge role of the plot of this movie, and that makes me want to point out something that is happening right here beneath our very faces. Look at these computer screens and this place that Bruce and Wonder Woman have found themselves in. It's not the Batcave. Actually, let's brighten things up a little bit.
Yeah, look at the background here. That wall looks kind of like it's the hull, and then there's this monitor showing a vessel of some kind. At first we thought that maybe this is Wonder Woman's invisible jet, or maybe they're in some kind of submarine, but then based off of visits to the Justice League set, this is probably a large jet called the Flying Fox.
Which is kind of like a maybe DC equivalent to the helicarrier from the Avengers, and maybe the Justice League is gonna use it like the Avengers did in that movie. It'll be their base of operations, and here's another rumor, it could contain within it, like underneath, the Batmobile, and maybe even this new Bat vehicle called the Nightcrawler, which is kind of a tank, I guess, that can maybe climb up walls. It sounds amazing.
And of course the name Flying Fox could of course be a reference to Lucius Fox, who helps run Wayne Corp and in the Nolan movies help Batman with all of his tech. This jet could be named after him, but I don't think we've seen Lucius Fox in this new DC movie universe yet.
I'm just hoping that somehow they still bring back Morgan Freeman in some way. Like, even if he's just the voice of the computer or something, like, even though he's a computer, he would still respond very slowly but full of wisdom. You know what I mean?
Well, the best way to answer your question would be to ask one back to you. I mean, really, how often do you look at a man's shoes?
What does that mean, computer? I need to know where the Riddler is.
Well...
Oh, gosh. I'm just gonna type instead of talk to my computer.
Let's move on.
Look, man, I don't know who you are, but whoever you're looking for,
So you're fast.
that feels like an oversimplification.
So here Bruce tosses a batarang at Barry Allen, and it's kind of like when Peggy Carter fired the gun at Captain America.
Yes, I think it works.
And notice that when Barry looks back in disbelief, what's really going on here is that he's realizing that Bruce Wayne is Batman. He just threw a batarang at him. Only one person in the world can have that. That's that look of disbelief and realization on Ezra Miller's face.
I guess he could also be a Gotham evidence locker keeper, but I think Bruce Wayne is probably not that.
God, you work in the Gotham Evidence Lab.
Yeah.
Also notice that Bruce doesn't really have a problem revealing his identity to Barry. It's kind of like that moment when Batman just goes down the line of everyone in the Justice League and just outs their real identity.
Hold on a second here. What about the whole secret identity thing? I mean, I trust you guys, but I'm not sure I'm ready to Wally West, Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne. Show off.
The threat that they're facing is just too big to really care about their hidden identities amongst each other anymore.
I also will point out that Barry Allen does not seem to work with the police in this version. Usually he's a forensic scientist, but I guess he's like some sort of hacker or something instead here. Also, I want to point out this lightning that's emitting from Flash here. I know a lot of you, if you watch a TV show, you're like, Barry Allen's evil, he's actually secretly Zoom. No, they're allowed to use different colors in the movies and in the TV shows. But also, just getting into this a little bit, that electric charge is something that in the TV show, that version of Barry Allen had to like earn up, and he's able to actually throw that lightning. There's a really awesome moment where Zoom catches that lightning on the TV show. But here, the fact that he's building up this charge and stuff, that's almost like a side power that Flash has, the ability to create electricity. I think it could be actually a big part of something he's able to do in this movie. So I think maybe Flash won't just be a speedster. He might use this power of harnessing electricity at some point in the movie. There definitely are a lot of sparks in this section foreshadowing some sort of electrical abilities.
And real quick, I want to point out that you can actually figure out how fast Flash is moving here. We learned about this from The Science of. So this this throw lasts about 21 seconds. Now, if you know that really good knife throwers can throw a knife anywhere between 22 and 30 miles an hour, and come on, we're talking about peak human here, Bruce Wayne, so we'll say 30 miles an hour.
Well, if you take that and then you look and you see the batarang takes about 2 turns when it reaches Barry. So people that have actually thrown real batarangs, they've found that each turn of a batarang means it's traveled about 3 paces, and the US Army defines a pace as about 30 inches. So that means, based on these rotations, these two are standing something like 15 feet apart.
So if the batarang was going 30 miles an hour and it traveled 15 feet, that means in Bruce's time, that took about 0.34 seconds or 340 milliseconds. That's about the time it takes a human to blink.
So if we saw that throw last 21 seconds, but it really only took 340 milliseconds, then the Flash is moving 62 times faster than normal human speed. That means that at this pace, which I really doubt is even his fastest pace, it would take him over an hour to live through just one of our puny human minutes. He's amazing, is all I'm saying.
Let's move on.
I'm putting together a team. People with special abilities. You see, I believe enemies are coming.
Stop right there. I'm in.
You are? Just like that?
Yeah, I need friends.
Great.
Can I keep this?
Okay, so we get this fun moment with Barry Allen, and I like that he's such a fanboy and he asks if he can keep the batarang, and it might be fun if he actually does keep the batarang and use it to save Bruce later in the movie. But it's interesting to point out here that he does need friends because he's kind of alone in the world. They were talking about in the Comic-Con panel that because Barry Allen moves so fast that his ears can't hear sound waves. He moves faster than the speed of sound. So whenever he moves really fast, he's just moving through a silent world and he feels isolated. But maybe here's his chance to make some super friends.
No. Move on. Alright, and nearing the end here, we get kind of like the epic shots of each member of our team thus far. Keep in mind, of course, without Superman, because he's dead forever and he's never coming back. But what I want to focus on here is Flash, actually. Watch, take a look at him.
Notice how this version of Flash is very similar to the version that we saw in Injustice. It's got different pieces to it, and he has a similar look.
In fact, it's actually very different, I think on purpose, from the Barry Allen on TV, who's got the kind of like leather look. It looks like it might have zippers hidden away there somewhere. This is like assembled armor, because in Injustice, everyone's worried about dealing with Superman. I'm also gonna point out though, this look and this scary Superman from Injustice, remember, this is all the same stuff that was happening in that kind of wormhole, nightmare vision dream that happened in Batman vs Superman. That was Barry Allen Flash there too. Now the moments are finally like connecting together. It's kind of funny to note that these two have met before, just in the future for Barry Allen and in the past for Batman. But the world that they're headed toward, I still think they're setting this up for who knows when. I don't know if it's like Justice League Part 2 or 30, but that costume and the nods to Injustice, I feel like we're still definitely headed there at some point. Oh, also, who's firing at him? There's a red blast. Not saying Superman comes back and he's evil, but maybe Superman comes back and he's evil. Just saying, maybe.
Also, check out this shot of Aquaman with the ocean spray. I feel like that's... Also, check out the shot of Aquaman with like the ocean spray.
It's ocean spray.
It's ocean spray. It's like the gran apple juice. Ocean spray, gran apple.
Where do you think they got that name from?
Also, check out real quick the shot of Aquaman with the ocean spray. Also, check out the shot of Aquaman with like the ocean spray. I'm not gonna say ocean spray. So quickly, check out the shot of Aquaman in front of the ocean with spray.
With spray? Eric can't talk about Aquaman and ocean spray without cracking up. So I'm just gonna point out that it looks like it's from the comics. They might be sampling an image from the comics. That's it.
Ocean spray.
All he had to say. Moving on.
I heard about you. Didn't think you were real.
I'm real when it's useful.
The team is then in some sort of big underground place. So this could be a massive ventilation shaft that like runs all the way down to this tunnel that connects Metropolis and Gotham across the bay. And that all could be happening underneath Stryker's Island. So you see in the comics, Stryker's Island is a prison island, but in Batman vs Superman, they actually showed it.
Projectile 1, impact, Stryker's Island, east of Metropolis.
But they turned it into kind of an uninhabited island. Maybe there's an abandoned prison there, but that's where the big Doomsday Showdown takes place. So in Justice League now, now, they could be taking a page from the comics and set Stryker's Island as a place where some of these same team members actually need to investigate the pending Darkseid invasion.
Oh, and Silas Stone, Cyborg's father, head of Star Labs, and the guy who was playing with maybe a mother box in Batman vs. Superman. Well, rumor has it that he could be missing in this movie, and this same place could be part of the search for him.
Oh, and speaking of Batman vs. Superman at all, remember all those parademons we saw there? Those are an army of creatures that they serve Darkseid, yada yada. They're confirmed to be in this movie, and some descriptions of them have them acting like bats in these new Justice League movies. So couldn't you just see a bunch of them just hanging upside down, like sleeping and just ready to attack? That would be terrifying, but also amazing. Also, it'd be ironic for Batman to have to deal with them since he's usually pretty cozy with bats.
And that last line where Batman says,
I'm real and it's useful.
that's interesting because it gets into what Batman's whole MO is. He prefers to be a myth just to scare people into not committing crimes, but then he reveals himself as the real deal when a job needs to be done. And right now, a big job needs to be done. They need to take down whatever this big threat is.
Cool, so let's look at just the tag here at the end.
Arthur Curry. I hear you can talk to fish.
And I kind of like this joke here at the end because it just does remind everyone, like, hey, you know how you all were really concerned about Aquaman looking like a loser and being the lamest member of the Justice League? This is Jason Momoa. He could kill all of us, and yeah, he can also talk to fish, but they're mostly calling out the people that were worried about Aquaman being a pussy. He's not anymore, at least. But that's it for this trailer. Yeah, it's all we noticed. So if there's anything that you noticed that we didn't call out, good job. Let us know what it is. Hit me up on Twitter at FIMO, and just let me know if there's small things there. You can also hit me up on Facebook, Facebook.com/FIMO knows if there's a longer diatribe you want to fill me in on.
Also, you can hit me up on Twitter at EAVoss or follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars for information about when our videos are going to be coming out.
Thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. You guys make it so that we can make these videos. If you're interested in supporting us there, it's patreon.com/newrockstars. Also, check out that Wonder Woman breakdown. It's also very cool. We found lots of interesting little hidden nuggets there. And subscribe if you're not already, because we're going to hit up a lot of Comic-Con stuff this week and in the weeks to come. Otherwise, I think I'm done.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.